Hey, it's me again, just giving you a little reminder that we did change the format of this show and therefore got rid of the episodes that didn't really have anything to do with that, which also changed our numbering so that this was talked about as episode 100. It won't be in the new numbering, which means we'll get a brand new, fun episode 100 whenever we get to that. This is just a regular episode that features me, so if you're not sick of listening to me, listen to me again. But we'll find a new and fun way to celebrate the new episode 100 when we get there. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy.
The Graphic Histories Podcast.
I got bit by a radioactive bug. I tried an experimental drug. Went up for a stroll on a gamma testing range. I found an enchanted hurricane. I made a serum that made me small. I modified the serum so it would make me tall. Radioactive isotope in my eyes. Dying alien help me accessorize. I gained the proportion and strength of a spider. Now I'm invincible and I can fly. I lost my sight, my other senses were heightened. I'm gonna put on my pajamas and go fight crime.
Hello, aggressive listener, and welcome to Graphic History's 100th episode celebration, where we will dive deep into the mind of your host with the most, André Myette. I am your interviewer tonight. Andre is co-host on his other show, X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show, I should say. Don't mind me, I stabbed myself in the eye. So that's what's going on with me, I guess, since last we spoke, which was when I was interviewed on this show last year sometime. It's good to be talking to you all again. Gotta say. Anxiously awaiting the birth of my second child here in August. Second daughter. That's going to be fun, I guess. Yeah, of course it's going to be fun. It'll be joyous. But in the meantime, enjoy the sunshine, everybody. At least you're in the same hemisphere as me. It's springtime. It's summertime, practically. Enjoy. Play in your garden. Go to the beach if you have such an option where you live. Yeah, so Andre, be interesting. What do you think we're gonna learn about him tonight? I don't know. We're gonna get him to recline his chair. Drink a little faster than maybe he would otherwise. Really loosen the lips of this fella here. A fine interviewer himself. We'll see what kind of interviewee he is. I interviewed him once before, in fact, on my Star Trek podcast, where he has, of course, no ties to Star Trek himself, but we reviewed 15 issues of a comic book, which was Star Trek, and that was the Star Trek connection. And then I interviewed Andre. So, but that one, I was a terrible interviewer at the time. This one, I'm going to try to channel my inner Andre. And, well, look who's coming to join us. Our special guest of the evening, talented artist, podcaster, professional wrestler, Andrew Myette.
Oh, come on.
What? Good to have you here, Andrew. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me here, Devin. I really appreciate it. Mm-hmm. I hope for the uninitiated, I'm gonna have to train my brain to be on the other side of these conversations because I'm so used to it. I was just about to introduce you and do the whole thing. I hope you mentioned in your intro, which I wasn't listening to, and I will have to listen to in post. Or maybe I'll just surprise myself and not listen to it, just cap it and put it, listen to it when the episode comes out. That might be funner. Maybe. But I hope you mentioned that I pronounced your name wrong for an episode or two before you corrected me.
I didn't. I think it was 4 episodes, actually.
Well, you should have corrected me earlier. Or maybe you did.
I should have.
Yeah, that's all right.
No, I definitely didn't. Well, no worries, Andrew. You're
like, I don't want to scare Andre away, so I'm just gonna let him call me by the wrong name.
Well, like I said, I don't even hear that sort of thing anymore. So we're digging to the deepest, darkest places of your psyche.
Oh shit! Andre. This is gonna be a hit
job. This is a celebration. It's a celebration of everything Andre, but it's also an investigation of everything Andre.
Okay.
So So, recline your chair, if you will,
Okay.
a little maybe,
Should
more
I have
than you
my
would.
lawyer present, perhaps? Would that be
Oh, certainly
required?
not. Certainly
Okay,
not.
I can bring him in the call.
Maybe a box of tissues. Maybe, grab that gremlin over there and hold its hand
Well, there's a
for
couple of them.
emotional support,
I could take the there's an alien closer behind my computer here.
or a comfort cat.
Hmm.
You have a comfort kitten. You could
They're
you could
sort of
stroke.
circling because they want food, so they'll be around, I'm sure, at some
No,
point.
I just fed
My
my
wife's out of
cats.
town for a few days, so they're she's usually the one that's dutifully feeding them every so often, and I also have no problem feeding them, but they kind of, I think they look lost without her here. They're like, where is she? Why isn't she feeding us?
Yeah, it's a good point. Well, it's good that she's not here actually, because you don't want her to see you in the state you may end up
Oh
in
my God, what are
after
you
all this.
planning? What are you planning?
Well, I mean, I don't know how twisted the tale of
Okay,
Andrew Myette gets. Um, but we'll see. We'll see.
pretty
Let's see.
twisted.
Where does it? I'll try to channel my. I was telling the audience I'm going to channel my inner Andre, try to be a
Oh,
better interviewer than I have been the first time I interviewed you, where I was just like, "How's your art?" and like that kind of thing. But we'll see. And I'll also try to channel my inner Sigmund Freud, of course.
oh, okay. I have a shirt with Sigmund Freud on. I should have worn it.
You should have, or I should have.
It says Pink Freud, and it's like the light going into a little prism with Freud in it, and then it like splinters out.
Hmm.
I'm a sucker for a
That's
good
interesting.
pun.
Oh, me too. Me
Yeah.
too.
All right.
Um,
Well, I see to you, sir. I
we're
will answer your questions.
let's start with how do you feel about reaching number 100?
Good. Kind of surprising. I feel like it's a little hollow just because the earlier episodes I used to do these features on comic book characters and sort of a deep dive into their history in comics. So that lasted for maybe a season or two, and
I
then
want to do like 10, 15 of those.
probably somewhere around that. It was bi-weekly then as well, or it might have been weekly then as well. I think it was weekly. So there's quite a few at the beginning. But in the end, I kind of realized like there are people doing YouTube videos that are like less than 5 minutes long that like kind of cinch up a lot of that sort of stuff, and it wasn't quite as interesting as I thought it would be. And I early on I threw in. Well, actually, the second episode was my first interview episode because I thought it'd be cool to every fourth episode to do one of these interviews. But then after doing so many of them, I realized that I like that more. And it was a ton more fun just chatting with people about the creative process, about comics, about how they do what they do and why. And I really really enjoyed that part of it. Um,
What was
so
the
yeah,
first?
the first one was Ed Brisson, who
Oh, that's a good one.
yeah, who writes for Marvel now. Did a bunch of X-Men books, so I'm sure you're familiar with his work. Currently writing the Predator comic at Marvel, and I believe another Avengers book. I can't think of
I
the name
was
of it.
reading an independent book of his for a while. I forget what it's called now.
He had a few. There's an interesting one called The Field that was just an indie that was four parts. He did a Kickstarter for one called Catch and Release, which was really really good. A lot of crime comics. He reminds me a lot of Brubaker a little bit, and I like that. So obviously I'm a fan of him and Ed. So yeah, Ed had recently relocated to Halifax from Ontario, I believe. It's been a long time since that interview. But yeah, I just reached out to him, and obviously I met him at I think the East Coast Comic Expo, and we just got to chat. And so I thought he'd be a fun first guest, and sort of got the ball rolling. And from there, I just kind of kept going. So eventually, I think Fat Apollo was my first interview of my just going straight into interview section. I think it was either Fat Apollo or Ben Dunn, who is the creator of Ninja High School. And a few of the are in that Warrior Nun Angelina, which is like a show on Netflix. So he started the comics for that. So yeah, it was and then yeah, I just thought so because of that, it does feel a little hollow, I guess. That like the first few episodes weren't exactly interview episodes, but I don't know. I've toyed with the idea of restructuring it and removing those episodes and just doing the straight up interviews, but then I'd have to like re-record a lot of stuff, and my time is not as abundant as it used to be. So I thought let's let it stand. If people want to do a deep dive and listen to those, they can. If they want to skip them, they can too.
Yeah,
So,
and why remove? Like to not continue is one thing, but to remove something you put time into, what's the point?
that's fair, but I don't know. I feel like they weren't as. I did try to be clever with them, and there was a lot of work put into the write ups, but I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of just listening to someone read something they wrote isn't as entertaining as back and forth conversation.
I agree. Your interviews are a better way to go.
No, I'm glad you like them.
They're good. It's a good show. It's a good show. I mean, this may be its highlight, of course, for several reasons. For several reasons, of course.
Well, you found a way to worm
Mostly
your way back into 2 episodes now, so
I have. I'm good at getting on podcasts.
it's true.
Yeah. Where did the saga of Andrew Myette? I mean, sorry, André Myette begin?
Begin in a little community called Bayfield, which is just outside of Antigonish County here in Nova Scotia.
Place wrought with hardship and ruffians.
Not really.
A place that makes you feel comfortable being surrounded by gremlins.
That's possible. I mean, that all came from just a love of horror movies that I found growing up. Gremlins specifically is one of my favorites, but the small community, mostly fishing. But it's close to Antigonish, which is a university town, and a large retirement town. A lot of older folks live there as well as younger students. It's a weird juxtaposition. But
Nova Scotia is a bit of a retirement town.
That's
no matter
fair.
where
That's
you go
fair
in
enough.
Nova Scotia, there's definitely older people, and that's fine too.
So most people down that way do manual labor jobs or like work in fish plants or that sort of thing, or they work in Halifax at schools. So I went to school in a place called Monastery, which is about 10 minutes away from where I grew up. My parents still live in the same place, so it's it's a trip when you go home. Nothing's really changed. But it's a nice quiet little community, and obviously I grew up with a lot of friends, cousins who were always around. Like I had a lot of cousins living on the street road. I didn't live on a street. I lived on a road, dirt road.
Oh yeah,
and it's still a dirt
too.
road. So a lot of them have I grew up with, and now a lot of them live on that road. So when I go home, I get to see them again sometimes, or for family gatherings. So not a lot of my family has gotten too far away. A few did, but they're still around. So
how many siblings do you have?
one, I have an older brother named Travis. He's
and he teased you?
Yeah, I mean he's 5 years older than me, so that's a bit of an age gap. Like when you
and you hated him for it.
Oh, here it comes. Actually, him and I are probably closer now than we ever
Look,
have
we're
been.
getting into it.
That's
we're
fine.
getting into it.
When we were kids, there was such an age gap. Like when we were young kids, I think we got along. And then when he became like a teenager and I was still an annoying little kid that was following him everywhere, that kind of fell out as it naturally does.
Mm-hmm.
He went off to college when I was just getting into high school. So so now that we're both adults, we actually hang out now more than we ever used to, really. He'll come up and visit fairly often.
You're bigger.
Yes, I am. And we don't look
the
very
little
much
brother
alike.
is now the bigger brother.
You don't look very much alike. I think I take after mom's side of the family, and he definitely looks like dad's more. So, but he does the photography for the wrestling shows I do. So he's usually up here once a month for that. But he came down for the pub crawl I did a little while ago, and he usually comes up for New Year's or my birthday or any of those sort of things. And I go down, visit my parents, and he still lives in Antigonish as well. He actually does a very similar thing to me. He's also a graphic designer, and he also works at a sign shop. So we're in very similar parallels with our careers.
You guys are setting up like the cartel, the sign cartel. You're running it in Truro. Where's he running his cartel?
Covered.
Yeah, he's got the Antigonish cartel.
That's right.
Yeah, geez, you're getting there. You gotta get down South Nova Scotia, get one down in Yarmouth.
That's true. Well, there are a lot of sign shops around generally, but
well, everyone needs signs.
That's true. It is a very expansive industry.
Signs everywhere. There's signs.
Yeah. Never heard that before in my life.
No, you probably haven't in your line of work.
Never. No one's ever referenced that song to me.
I definitely don't think you're allowed to play it at your workplace.
Well, no, it's funny. My boss had mentioned before that he considered using it in advertising, but the sign's not the song's not really a pro sign song, so he sort of eschewed that idea.
It's a very wise decision, I think. What about your parents? What do they do?
Well, Mom was currently she's a custodian at the old high school I went to. But before that, she was just a housewife. Not just, I mean, that doesn't sound nice, but she was a housewife and raised us. Dad was into manual labor, so he did a lot of stuff. it's funny because it's sort of like my life's paralleled his a little bit in a funny way, because like his dad died when he was 15. So his father died of leukemia when dad was 15. So that would have been like, dad was born in 52. So that would have been like 67. So he basically quit high school and just started working manual labor, and then did that his entire life. And he would jump construction, a lot of construction mostly, but he would like do roofing, construction in the summers. In the winters he would shear, or in the falls he would shear trees, Christmas trees, for a Christmas tree lot, which is something I think you're sort of familiar with. Or you do something similar in your work. So he would, and I would help him sometimes, like by making the ribbons for him and stuff, that they would use to identify the trees that they had selected or been pruning. So he'd do that. He'd also eel, like he would fish, he'd catch smelts, he would catch eels, he would sell them to like Sobeys and various markets around. So a lot of stuff like that. Currently he's sort of, I mean, he's 72 now, so or 71 now. So he's not really retired. He mostly still does construction work, but he drives a bait truck kind of now as like his summer job. So between there's various wharfs and processing plants for like what the fishermen bring in around the area I grew up. One at the Bayfield Wharf and one in East Tracadie. So he kind of weighs the fish that comes off the boats and moves bait and stuff between the two places. So does that, but he still does a lot of construction work. He did some stuff in our house when we got it, helped me build a library and
into a library.
Yeah, as a room we turned to a library is always a dream of mine, but now it's getting really crammed. So I have to get rid of some stuff or get more selective what I bring in, or build a bigger house.
Hey, get him to build you a bigger library.
It's true. I have to build onto the house at this point, which is probably not easy or not expensive, just to have more books. So I'm trying to get myself more acquainted with digital books.
Downsizing?
Well, digital books too. Just
No, I shall never get rid of anything I currently have.
There are some things I could. I did go on a bit of a tear where I bought like several $100 Rama graphic novels that were like over the years because they were so cheap and just to read them. And some of them aren't the best quality. So after I read them, I'll probably either trade those in for credit at the comic store or give them away to a better home.
So what's something uniquely Nova Scotian from your part of Nova Scotia growing up?
Uniquely well, beaches. There is like where I grew up is really cool. Like the beach was like a mile down the road. So I go to the beach almost every day. Just ride your bike to the beach, go swimming, hang out with your friends. And that was really cool. Like I miss not having access, like having to drive 45 minutes to get to a beach from my current location, and seems like too much to me. And I wish
I
I
don't
was
consider
closer.
the mud shale shores of Truro a nice beaching experience.
The Bay of Fundy isn't really a swimming area. I could reach that within 5 minutes of my house. Like I can see it from my window. We're right on pretty close to it, and but often the tide is out. It's just a mud flat. Or if the tide is in, it's not really
Mud water.
muddy water.
Turbulent.
And it's also quite turbulent. It's not. I don't want to get like stuck, jump in the water near my house and then wind up near Truro somewhere, and have to walk back home in swimming shorts.
You pick up mudsliding. That's something uniquely Nova Scotian we did where I grew up.
Apparently, when the tide is down, the mud is quite absorbent, and if you ever want to get rid of something, if you ever want to get rid of something or someone, it's a good place to turf something.
It's mud sinking.
Yes, apparently it's quite the sinkholes out there.
Yeah. So when did you decide you wanted to be a professional wrestler? At what age?
It's funny, that came later. So I watched it when I was a kid.
It's interesting because for me it was like when I was 5. I'm like, I'm gonna be a professional wrestler.
Yeah, like it came way later. So when I was young, I used to watch it like Hulk Hogan, and I love the Ultimate Warrior when I was a kid. And it's funny when you get older and you rewatch. Like he was a great character. He wasn't a great wrestler. And there's been documentaries and shows about how he was kind of just holding like he was. There are a lot of guys in wrestling that look good but aren't good wrestlers. And there are a lot of guys in wrestling that
mostly just stood there impervious and threw clotheslines.
Yeah, I mean he was shredded. But he also, who knows what he put through his system. I mean, he died at like 51 or 50. So
Everything went into that system.
yeah, I'm
That
sure.
system was well tuned.
Yeah, and you pay the price for that by having a shorter lifespan, that's for sure. But maybe who knows if that's worth it or not. But
I don't think so.
I mean, not being able to see your kids grow up must suck. But I mean, who
Yeah,
knows what
assuming he has them.
who he does, yeah. But who knows what welcomes
The-
him after death? So maybe he's watching from heaven as they're spending his money.
which is what he always wanted.
What do you want? Yeah.
Who knows?
Thank God they're spending my money.
Yeah,
No, I
exactly.
watched it when I was really young, and then I sort of fell out of it. And then towards the end of the DX stuff, I had my cousins were watching wrestling right around the time Kurt Angle popped up in the WWE. And I was at their house just watching. I never had cable growing up, so I didn't have the channels that had wrestling. So I just never really thought to watch it. And this is before the internet was you could just go on and watch everything. So yeah, I was watching it with them one day and I really liked it. And then I had a friend in school that was into it, so he would record the shows for me. And then eventually my folks got a satellite dish and I was able to watch it myself. But I kind of from around I was like grade 10 maybe. I started watching it a lot. And I would actually record every episode of Raw and SmackDown, which is insane because it comes out weekly. You just like burn through VHS tapes like after like 2 weeks you'd pretty much fill up a tape. So you need like, 100 and or what 52 divided by 2, so you need 26 tapes a year. To and I don't think I ever went back and rewatched. I made the pay-per-views, which I did, but which I would get with my friends. So yeah, when I got to Truro, I just saw like I came here for school, and when I got here, I saw a poster somewhere for wrestling, the local wrestling show, and I've never gone to an indie show before. So a friend of mine was visiting, and me and her and some other guy went to go watch it. Another friend of mine that I met that was into wrestling. So yeah, we watched it. It was terrible. It's just, I mean, at the time it was cool to see a live wrestling show, but there was like 8 people in the audience, and it was just a little boxing club. But the guys that ran it were like, "Hey, you're like a big guy. You should get into this." And through them, I met other people that I still work with today in wrestling that gave me insight into the proper way to go about it and get into wrestling. So through them, Chris Cook specifically, and a few others, I got into a higher bracket of independent wrestling. The one that sort of teaches you
Somebody
how to
at a bar said you were a big dude.
yeah, basically. It was like a boxing club. It was just like a
Well,
little tiny
boxing
little
club, right?
place. And like it was so small, there's only one side of the ring you could watch. Like you couldn't sit around the ring. They
Oh my
were
God.
every 3 sides were against walls, and the 4th side was where you sat to watch the wrestling.
That sounds dangerous.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can't if you
yeah. They were
smash your head if you went flying out of the ring or something. Like, oh my.
yeah. So yeah, and then eventually that sort of did a few of that. I didn't think about it much more, but then some of the people I met through it brought it up to me later, and I ended up jumping in on that. So going to those shows and building a character, and the years have piled on.
That's an interesting origin for that, I would think. It's usually people. Well, I guess people do get into it because they're big, like a lot of athletes. They're like, well, I'm still big. I didn't get into football, but I'm still big, so I could do that.
Yeah,
But that
maybe
was
football
probably
would have been a
less.
calling, but I didn't have a football team in my high school, and I still
So
don't really know
what
how
did
to play.
little
What?
Andy want to be? What did little Andy want to be
I was
then? If
never
not a
ever in my
wrestler.
life called Andy, not once.
Little Andy, we're calling you
This.
the little fella. That's how we separate from little Andy and Andrew.
So what's the question?
What did he want to be? Little Andy.
Probably comic artist. I love comics
Okay.
growing up, so it's funny. I've talked about this before, about how like whenever probably an animator for Disney, I guess, but that's just because I feel like that's what people would always tell me I should do because that's in the art world, that's what they think would be the most successful path you could go is by like, and it's funny
From the
because
Lion King.
yeah,
What did you
but
do, the
knowing how
Lion
well
King?
the VFX artists and the animators for Disney are actually paid when like
Yeah, really.
it's not that much.
And
So
work to death, not to mention the hours aren't great.
your better job was to be a film director, the director of one of those movies, or maybe a producer to make the most money. So,
Or a voice actor, yeah.
yeah, well, you'd have to be one of the big ones. So I'm sure. But yeah, I know something along those lines. I mean, obviously, I'm a big movie fan now, and I was then. I just didn't really know what to call it, I guess. So, just you watch movies. So ambition then and now would probably still be able to do something in the film world someday.
What on what side?
Acting and directing, probably.
Do the old Rocky and writing, directing. It's like, you can have my movie, but I star in it.
Well, yeah, maybe I could, if I could write something so profound that that they would do that, then sure, I would make that decision. But that script was deeply sought after by a lot of people in Hollywood when he'd written it. So
Script. I think you could write something as profound as a boxing movie, but who knows? It's a good movie.
it won an Oscar. You're like, it's a boxing movie. Pish posh.
You could write the wrestling Rocky.
Well, you guys have not done sports movies on your other podcast. That would probably be an interesting topic.
It's coming at some
There are
point
a lot
down
of
the
them.
line.
I think you should probably be more specific and pick a specific sport.
Maybe.
I mean, if you're doing boxing, $1 Million Baby and Rocky and something else.
I'm sure hockey got its own one. I think there's a sports one. I think I picked Cool Runnings as one of the movies.
I love that it almost seems like an exercise for you on that show to go out of your way to pick something that doesn't fit the mold. Like even
What's not sports about Cool Running?
No, it does. You're right, but it tentatively skirts it. Like you don't pick an obvious choice, which is fine, but you don't even pick a second obvious choice. You pick like the 5th to 6th obvious choice in the list of movies.
Now went for bobsledding, not baseball. There's a million baseball.
You could do Angels in the Outfield. There's a nice baseball one. The idea of the sport itself, I guess bobsledding does. I get, that's a fine choice. I'll take that one back. That is
the Olympics.
That is a fine choice. It does play in the Olympics. It is centered around a sport, and it does actually focus on said sport. Although bobsledding,
and legendary John Candy.
That is true. But bobsledding is.
He has a really good role in that.
He does. Well, it's one of his last, wasn't it? Didn't he die a few years after that? So.
Yeah, I think he died during Wagons East, didn't he?
That is true. Good eye. I always get that one confused because with Chris Farley's one of his last movies, that one with Matthew Perry, where they're like the explorers going across America. I can always.
Oh, I never saw that one.
It actually is really good. I just can't think of the name of it. It's like standard Chris Farley fare, but if you like Chris Farley's humor, you'll love it. It's quite funny.
You started drawing right away then. Little Andre wanted to be a.
Yeah, I used to make comics in school, comic strips based on some of my friends, and it was kind of rehashings a bit. Like I would use the art style of like Calvin and Hobbes, but I would like change it to match my friends. So like one of my friends was tall and thin, and the other friend Jamie was small and kind of diminutive. So he would fit in the Calvin part, and my friend would kind of fit into the Hobbes part. So I would sort of base it on that art style and then work into different storylines based around that. I mean, a lot of people that draw probably started by like tracing or emulating the favorite things they like to read or look at, and I think that I was very much into that as well.
So did you do any books? You created a comic, didn't you?
Couple, yeah. One was called Humbug, which was the one
that was stolen from you. Stolen.
Yeah, I mean, it was so similar in concept, but there's 8 billion people on the planet, so whether he stole it or just seemed like in concept that was too good for one person to come up with, is more likely the answer. But I handed off to quite a few people when I first got it, and I've seen it at actually my other comic I saw it at a used store one time on a rack, so that was fun.
What? That's pretty cool. What's
yeah,
that
it was the Value Village. So that was called Horseshoes and Hand Grenades, and the concept behind that was every story would be a different story, like a slice of life kind of American Splendor type thing. Mostly around the first one was about my cat Kato that I had growing up. It was sort of his whole life story. I changed a few things and names and stuff to protect the innocent. But I think Andrew Myers was the main character, which seems awful close to André Myette. I thought I was being clever, but it was a black and white comic centered around the relationship of a boy and his cat throughout the cat's lifespan. So I enjoyed it. I do miss doing comics. It's been a very long time, definitely over a decade. So my dream is to do something. I just don't know what exactly. I think I want to find something. I have a lot of ideas and a lot of ones I think are cool, but I kind of want to find something that I really speaks to me to draw. Because if you come up with the concept that like I have one that I really like, but I'm like, I don't know if I really looking that forward to drawing it. So, I want to come up with something that ticks all the boxes. I feel like something with monsters is kind of what I want to do, just because the horror element of things is something I've always gravitated towards. And I feel like there's not a lot of really clever horror comics out there. So maybe I come up with something that'll. There are a few.
As far as
But
art goes, like horror, it's all off the wall. You can do anything.
kind of. I
Crazy.
mean, a lot of the ideas that
Depends on what type it is.
a lot of the ideas that I floated are things that have been done before and were certainly inspirations. Like I love the concept of the original Marvel Comics Darkhold series, where it's just like it was kind of like when X-Files was popular, and Marvel's like, we should do this as a comic. So they came up with this comic called the Darkhold, which is the Book of Sins, which has appeared in the Doctor Strange movie, the Agents of Shield show. But it was this weird dwarf would appear if someone's having a problem, in their life. This weird dwarf would appear with this page from the book and give it to them. The page would allow them to fix what their problem was, but every time it's a monkey's paw situation where it turns out to be a curse and really ruin the person's life and usually the whole town, and people got hurt and possessed and they're demons and monsters. And Sabretooth made a cameo in one episode. Because like it was that time in the 90s where every comic had to cross over with every other one and everyone had to have some connection to somebody. So the FBI agents that would investigate these pages would go stop the person and somehow, and then catalog the page and then try to track down the book, and this dwarf is what they called it. It looked like a little person, but it obviously was some kind of demonic entity. And so I love that idea, and I was kind of toying with that, but the more I toy with it, the more I was like, this is just that again. I'm just rehashing.
Just like the idea of like a group kind of centered around
like every episode could be a different thing.
Or
an
anthology type thing.
Yeah, I mean, you do get the characters, and there is an overarching story, but every episode's like a monster of the week thing, which is always fun.
Did your horseshoes and hand grenades thing focus around the idea of like close doesn't only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades?
Yeah, you go, exactly. So that was
sort of a theme running through the stories, maybe.
Kind of more. I just like the sound of it, and I thought it was kind of a cool little. Because it could also be horseshoes are lucky, so it could be tales of good, and then unlucky. I'm assuming with a hand grenade, so tales of woe, or maybe a mixture of both. So it was kind of a bit of that. And maybe I'll revisit it someday, but I'm not. I feel like my art could have been better. I also was meeting deadlines to get to shows and stuff, so I was. A lot of late nights, and at this point I was just working for myself only, so I had a lot more time.
So what's the magnum opus gonna be? What's the magnum opus Andre comic gonna be about? You can break it down. We'll break it right now. We'll break the story. Do it right
well, there's
here.
one I really like the idea of, and maybe it'd be a better movie. I don't know, but it's Mad Max. It's Mad Max with hockey in the Canadian North. So after
They're not saying it actually zeitgeist.
What?
They're not saying it actually zeitgeist. You'll lose it.
Maybe so. But yeah. If someone takes it off, and I have another idea. But the concept was a nuclear war happens, and then most of humanity has to move far north to escape the fallout. So whether that actually is how that would happen, I don't know, but it sounded cool to me, so maybe I should do some research. But everyone's living in Arctic temperatures, basically, and it's a dystopian society with very much like Mad Max, where it's all everybody's got spikes and chains, and it's a lot of violence. And the blood sport that everyone rallies behind is hockey, which is a turned into a blood sport of its own. So instead of just the bloodiness of normal hockey, murder and like killing people during the game is acceptable. And
you better write that fast. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I know, severe violence. So it's about two friends that come from different parts of the community, and both enter into the blood sport. One to help his family, and the other because he wants to be like his father, so who has died in the hockey tournament. So I thought it'd be fun, like the Stanley Cup would have survived. Someone would have taken it north, so it's all beat up and gross looking, and still the prize and stuff like that. So, yeah, I do. I do think it'll be fun to do, and that will probably. I like the idea of that one because then I can just do one. I think when I do books, they need to be one book. Like here's the whole thing. I can't. I don't think my life is too busy to let me just make a comic and put it out there and then do another issue in 30 days because that's definitely not going to happen at this point, at this juncture anyway, unless someone wants to finance me or give me a job that allows me to have more time.
Can't even get to a podcast on time.
Well, I try, but it's tough.
It's tough,
Mostly it's
yeah.
because I have board meetings every Tuesday. Speaking of which, don't book
BORED board meetings.
Well, this past weekend I had one in the Halifax. It's a separate thing. It wasn't a board meeting, but it was a long weekend. It was rough. I had to wrestle in PEI at Friday, and I had to come home after that, so I didn't get home and in bed till about 4:00 in the morning. Then I got up at 7 to get ready to go to Halifax for a meeting at 9, and then was there until about 3, and then came back for a whiskey club I host here in town. So it was a very long.
Oh, whiskey's a good way to unwind.
It was nice. Then I went golfing with friends on Sunday, and I got a decent night's sleep before that, so it didn't work out. But
I noticed your golfing attire didn't protect the back of your neck.
yeah, can you tell the back of my head was red? That's been coming up all day, so I'm guessing it's pretty bad. I should take a photo.
Yeah,
of
it's
it
pretty red back there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you can see it on my arms too. I put I put sunscreen on, but I'm guessing I had missed some key
Sweated
parts
it off, did you?
or sweated it off.
Yeah.
But it was a beautiful day.
That was your golf game.
I'm not great. I mostly just like to play. I like playing, but I mostly like just hanging out with friends while doing it. I think my score was 113 out of 18 holes.
Well,
So,
113 out of 18.
about
So
6
that's quite a few strokes.
A 6.2 stroke average. So
Yeah, that doesn't sound great. Isn't par usually 5?
no,
4?
anywhere from 3 to 5.
Interesting. Well, so then young Andre wanted to throw off the shackles and the fish smells of his hometown and venture out. And
Yeah, to
then
get
what
that far.
happened?
Well, I decided graphic design. My brother got into school for graphic design. I kind of liked what I was seeing with what he was doing, so I decided to do the same. So I ended up coming to Truro to go to a place called the Success Business College. And that was for a graphic design program. It was about a year. It was 2 years, but they didn't take a break in the middle, so it was about a year and a half to do the whole designation. And yeah, that was it. Basically, learned all the tools of the trade and became a graphic designer. I thought that would also give me some tools that may help in comics and stuff down the line, which it did.
Yeah, I suppose it would. And podcasting.
Yes. That came much later.
Give me some posters. Anyway.
Yeah, it's usually just to help you with your podcast and the one that we do together.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. So Truro. But why Truro? What kept you in Truro, of all places? Like you say, not too far. You didn't venture to kept family and friends, I suppose.
Yeah, mostly. I didn't I didn't have a girlfriend or anything when I finished school, but I just got a job and just sort of stuck. So I just hung around, had friends, and liked it here all right. Obviously, later I got a girlfriend, now my wife. So we, gave me more connection to stay, and we kind of built a life here, which is I'm happy with. So,
good enough reason as any.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm happy. Life's good.
So if somebody said to you, you got all these things you're doing, like you're the sign guy, you're the professional wrestler guy, writer, podcaster, artist. Somebody says to you in the street, they're like, Andre, what do you do? What are you? What's your moniker? What do you say? What's the top of the list?
What my job is? I usually say graphic designer. Because that's the one that's the day to day.
No, not what your job is. Not what your job is.
Oh, what do I say I do?
Yeah, what are
Well,
you? What are you?
troubadour,
What
bon vivant.
are you a bon vivant?
I usually I usually say man about town is what I actually say. That's what my business card says. It's a little
Man
it just says
about
man about town with a list of all the things I do. Journeyman,
business cards. Thanks for reminding me.
journeyman maybe. I mean that's a good one.
Journeyman, no, that's like a negative. That's like you can never succeed, so you're just like stuck as
Oh
a
really?
journeyman.
Isn't that like a
Yeah.
designation if you're like in the trades, like a journeyman an
Oh, I
electrician?
guess like that's an apprentice thing too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess so in that sense. Good point. That is a good point.
yeah,
Then you got into podcast.
yeah. Well, I did them with friends a long time ago. I had a couple of little ones. I had one called the Endless Podcast where me and a couple of friends would just talk about comic stuff and nerd stuff, which was actually really fun. But then people moved away and got too busy. And then I had one called Affirmative Reactions, where me and a friend who was of African Canadian descent would discuss racial issues across the world, which is also very fun. But he got
Is it?
well, no, the racial issues aren't fun, but the podcast was fun. He was a pretty entertaining guy and very funny. So the two of us played off each other very well. His name was Justin Morton. He's still around. I just haven't seen him in a long time. It was fun. He kind of I don't know, he just didn't really want to do it anymore. He said he sort of said what he had to say after like 10 episodes, so we didn't really go much further. But
No,
and I had another one where I did it's called It Came from the Bargain Bin, which was we would review bad movies, B movies. So we watched a bunch, me and my friend Daniel, but he got busy with a different girlfriend, and then now he's married with and got a couple kids through the marriage, so he has no time to do anything. I barely see him anymore. So that one's probably not going to happen either. But I like that one. I mean, I like movies, so movie podcasts are a lot of what I listen to.
Yeah, you were angry when I started one, that's for sure.
I wasn't angry. Was I angry?
No, maybe that was cousin Dave. He's like, "Oh, you beat me to it."
Yeah, no, I would like
Everyone
to.
thinks they're the movie guy in the UFB. I'm just like, hey, whatever. Anyway.
I wouldn't say you're the movie guy in the UFB, that's for sure.
Oh, I'm definitely not the movie guy.
Based on some of your opinions and choices when it comes to movies. But
whoa.
What was the one you shit on the other day?
taste.
Mystery Men? Oh my god, that movie's so good. You're shitting all
I
over
liked
it.
it
I
as
was
a
listening,
kid.
going, it's
I was
mystery.
shitting on it because I'm a Mystery Man insider because I've seen it so many times. Mystery Men.
I've watched it 100 times probably as a kid. I loved it. I still love it. I'm
Me
overdue
too.
to rewatch it actually.
I'd probably quote half of it to you right now.
Don't correct me. It sickens me. That's one of my favorite lines from that movie that I quote fairly
like,
often.
Oh, what's that? He's just like, oh, it's nothing. It's just an amusing little gizmo. He's like, oh.
Oh yeah, right. The amusing little gizmo.
It's an amusing little.
That
All
show.
right, you're right. That is a good movie. I take it back.
That show also featured an early appearance from Star Trek actor Doug Jones.
Who was Doug Jones in that movie?
He was Pencilhead, who was there with son of Pencilhead.
All right,
They Raise Crime.
too.
That's Doug Jones. That's one of his
They
first
do.
roles.
They do.
Yeah, that movie's so good.
Yeah, that is a good movie.
How many toggle switches in Toto are we needed to release you from that chair? Just turn the switch. It also I often quote fairly frequently the part from that where they're talking about Captain Amazing, how he went missing, and then he says, well, we should get Lance Hunt to help us, and the guy goes, I keep telling you, Lance Hunt is Captain Amazing. Captain Amazing is Lance Hunt. And then William H. Macy is the shoveler, who's so good in that movie, where he says, Roy, we've been over this 1,000 times. Captain Amazing wears glasses. Lance Hunt does not wear glasses. Captain Amazing doesn't wear glasses. Lance Hunt wears glasses. And then Mr. Furious is like, he just takes them off when he transforms. He goes, that doesn't make any sense. How would he see?
He wouldn't be able to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, the shoveler's the best in that. I shovel well. I shovel very well.
Yeah, and Janine Garofalo is the bowler, He's like, did your
bowler.
father pass away? Yes. The police said he fell down an elevator shaft onto some bullets. And then one guy's like, I always suspected foul play in that, and then she's like, as have I.
As have I.
As have I.
Yeah, she's out for revenge. Yeah,
Yeah.
all right. I
Yeah, the
take it back. I
disco
take back
boys.
everything
Who
I said.
cares? All right. Excellent. I've redeemed it. I'm happy.
You've redeemed mystery man in my eyes. All right.
I'll
Good,
take
good.
it.
Actually, you know what? We jumped ahead to the podcast. So you know what? I get mocked for how many podcasts I start. You have just as many. So
Yeah, but only 2 active ones.
true.
But I would like to come on your movie one someday. I definitely can do that. So
I'm on the season finale.
yeah, that's just going through everything. I'd like to be on one where we actually talk about the movies instead of just me complaining about how I didn't agree with your decisions for the other movies.
No, not that one. I'm in the actual season finale, not the recap.
Oh, okay.
The one,
What's
the
the
one
season
about
finale?
multiple dimensions.
Ooh, do I get to pick the third movie?
Yeah.
What are the 2 you've chosen already?
Murphy chose Everything Everywhere All at Once because I've never seen it.
It's fantastic. He's right. It's the best movie ever.
I don't know if he's seen it either.
Oh, it's fantastic. I'm a huge fan.
I chose
You should
Event
pick The One
Horizon
by Jet Li.
and Last Action Hero.
Okay, well, Event Horizon is not a multiversal story.
No, but like alternate dimensions. Like they open up the gate to
But
another
that's not, you
dimension.
don't even go into that. It's just reference. They don't
No,
even
it's
go
it's
into the
hard,
dimension.
man. The other one was Last Action Hero. Trying to find movies from before the year 2000 that deal with alternate dimensions.
Into the
There's not that
Spider-Verse
many.
is a great
That's not from
choice.
before the year 2000.
Yeah, that's before 2000s.
Yeah, my picks do, so that's why it's hard for that particular
Oh
thing.
no, what about the one with Jet Li? Oh no, that would be after 2000s.
That's
The
what I'm
movie's not
saying.
the great either, but
Movies didn't start talking about stuff like that too often.
I know.
Before
I
that.
think that was out there. I'm trying to. There's one that I can't think of right offhand, but
If you think of one, pick it and come on the show.
well, it's got to be a good one. I don't just pick one because it fits the criteria. If I want to
It
support
doesn't
it,
have to be good. That's not the point of the show. We like to have a mix of good and bad.
Does it have to be before 2000 for my choice?
Yes.
Why does it have to be before 2000?
That's just the conceit of the show. Because there's like a century of movies to choose from. And then
But don't
like
you
one
pick
pick
that?
from like
What do you? What? So you pick after 2000? You pick. What do you pick?
I picked the 2 older movies.
Oh, okay. So you pick the 2 before, and then he picks the new one. All right. Well, I'll find something that works. There's
It's tougher than you think. It's a tough theme. I was like, I was struggling. Last
I mean,
Action Hero
there's
is
a
a
lot
good
of
pick,
ones with
kind
like
of.
alternate timelines
Oh.
and stuff, but if you're looking for just like straight up
Yeah, it's different. Yeah.
John
It's
dies
its
at the
own
end.
thing.
John died. That's not before 2000. All right. I'll come up with something.
It's tough. It's tough. Actually, here's a story. We did jump ahead of the podcast because here's a story. How did you acquire a wrestling federation?
Well, Chris Cook, who I got involved with wrestling, it was with New Breed Wrestling way back when. And, he got a life and moved on and was coming back to run it occasionally. And I was helping him, but then he just didn't really want to run his own anymore. Him and another guy were doing it. And they brought me in to be a part of it. And yeah, so I did. And then eventually both of them just sort of peeled off and said, we'll wrestle for you, but we don't really want to run it anymore. And it just became my thing.
Hostile takeover.
Not
Gotcha.
well, not purposefully. I wasn't like, yeah, I'm gonna get him. But
These guys fell down an elevator shaft onto some bullets.
that's right.
Eh?
Yeah, they quietly disappeared.
Sound, but quietly. They'll never tie it to you.
No, exactly. I've gotten away with it.
All you gotta do is blame that one-armed man.
Oh, I got a movie for you that takes place in alternate reality. Although it's supposed to be a
Right.
terrible movie.
That's
Cool
not-
World from 1992.
Ooh,
The Brad
you
Pitt
know what?
movie.
It's a good movie. Sort of.
It's very
Murphy
bad.
had picked it for something else, I think.
It's very badly rated. Really badly rated.
I think we have a theme where it's a mix between live action and cartoons, and I think that was one of the picks.
Well, the Page Master would work too for those sort of movies about parallel realities.
What? Is that about alternate realities?
Yeah, different books. He goes into them, right?
Yeah, see, it's tough. You sort of have to bend it a little to make that theme work. Because what is it? What's another dimension, really?
Pleasantville, The Cell. There's others. There's less stuff there.
They go into another dimension in Pleasantville. Is
Well, they go
Pleasantville
into
in
the
another
TV. It's like
dimension?
a
Oh
world
yeah.
that's within the TV show.
Stay Tuned could have worked if we hadn't used it already, I
Yeah, I love
suppose.
that. I love that movie.
It's a good movie. It wasn't quite as good as I remembered, but
I mean, it depends on how deep your theme goes. Like, I'm a huge fan, and one movie I would suggest is Existence, the Cronenberg movie.
oh right, I saw that once when it came out.
When they go into like
That
it's a
was the
video game
90s, right?
that's it's a video game that supplants reality, makes you think that it's real. You're not. It actually, I believe that Christopher Nolan owes an incredible debt to Cronenberg and that movie, because I think the movie channel put it out right around the time. Right around the
Oh, it
time
was on
Inception
there a
came
lot.
out. Because I remember we moved to our place we lived before this one, and I spent the whole weekend unpacking the entire house, and then I decided to go watch Inception because it just came out. So I went and watched it, and loved like that Sunday because I finished packing. I was like, I'm gonna treat myself, watch a movie. So I did that, enjoyed it, came home, and then on the movie network they had Existence on like the next day or something, and I watched it, and my god, are those movies similar, so much to the point that like at the end they don't even know if they're in the real life or in a game anymore. And that's like the whole thing of Inception. Like it's so close, so close, but it's really good. Existence is excellent.
You know, I remember it being interesting. I
It
couldn't
is.
tell you much about it. But is that another dimension if it's just a video game that makes you
No,
think it's
not
real?
really, no, but it depends on how deep you want the. Well, Time Bandits moves around to different realities, doesn't it? That's a classic old one.
Two different times.
Well, there's dwarves and monsters and other things in it.
Yeah, well, maybe it didn't get into the time episode, even though I kind of hoped it did. So, yeah, that's maybe not a bad pick.
Could be.
Yeah, that's not a bad pick. You should come on that episode anyway.
Oh, actually, I know one that does work, but also not before the 90s. Never mind.
Yeah, none of them are. That's the thing.
I don't know. I want to. I don't have to really want to love the movie that I'm talking about, because I do love movies so much that I don't want to just pick something.
Yeah. Well, you do love Everything Everywhere All at Once, so that one's already one you can gush about on that episode.
No, I could easily gush about that, but if you let me pick something that's after the 90s,
all right, well, we can let it go. We can do that.
I'll see what I can come up with.
Just because for that theme, it almost makes more
I do
sense.
deeply love Into the Spider-Verse as well, but that movie's been done to death.
Fantastic. I look forward to the second one. So, yeah, like, why not take the movie tack then when you were young? Why was it art over try to get into the film industry?
Didn't seem like attainable here. I mean, I did because I started. I
do
NASCAD
sort of, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really put that into it. Like I did a bunch of student films and know a lot of people that did go through NASCAD for film, but I don't think any of them work in film now. So it just seemed like in our area, and I guess the world always seemed small to me as far as like being what I could achieve within the place I was in, and it never really occurred to me until much later on that I could go somewhere else and do it. But I kind of like the idea of like a lot of the people I emulate, the filmmakers and folks that have done some amazing work, sort of did their own homegrown thing and got noticed from that. And I've always kind of wanted to go that route.
Kevin Smith route.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Kevin Smith did the Kevin Smith thing. But I do like, I mean, there's El Mariachi, there's like Dog Soldiers. There's a lot of movies that got, filmmakers noticed. Pi, Darren Aronofsky. Just low budget, cool, interesting things. Like one of the coolest movies that came out in 2020 was called Host, which was a Zoom call. It was an hour. The movie was an hour long, and it was about a Zoom.
Oh, I heard about that.
It was about. I watched it. I deeply loved it. It was a Zoom call between friends that are stuck at home because of the pandemic, and they do a seance through Zoom and accidentally summon something. That
does sound pretty cool.
It actually was the first movie.
You can build tension that way.
First movie in a long time that actually scared me. I think I was having a few drinks. Jen was in bed. It was late at night. I was sitting home alone, and not home. She was upstairs asleep. But just you're in the house. It's fairly dark. You're just watching a movie, and I had my headphones on because I don't want the TV wake her up. She's upstairs. I probably wouldn't, but sometimes I just put them on, and yeah, it's a great movie. It's only an hour long because that's how long a Zoom call goes before it used to go. before they would cut you off if it was free, 60
I was
minutes.
gonna say, are we getting cut off here?
No, I
Jesus.
bought, because I do this, I bought the professional version, so it's unlimited.
Good, because we're just getting started here, buddy.
Are we okay?
So, well, that's the thing about horror, like being horror buff as well. It is hard to get scared by them eventually. You
What's
can
your favorite
appreciate
horror
them for
movie?
other means. This is about me.
I know,
Um,
but still, I mean, this is a conversation. This is what I do when I host.
Yeah, true enough. It's a good question. And I know yours is like what, Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Yeah, you are paying attention.
Great. Well, that's a great pick.
There's a lot of beautiful newer ones, but of the classic, it's definitely that one. That one makes you just feel dirty the whole time. Does a really good job of that. I highly suggest
Yeah.
X if you haven't seen it, by Ty West. That's very heavily inspired by Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And there's a prequel called Pearl, which is also amazing. I just watched recently.
As far as the older ones go, as far as newer ones, like I don't know if I call it my favorite, but like it's interesting what you said about like it's the first movie in a while that scared me. That's the way I felt about Paranormal Activity when it came out. It's like, well, that's the first one in a while that scared
Well,
me.
that's another example of a homegrown horror movie that cost barely anything and became a huge success and launched a career. That guy only really directed that movie. He was like a coding expert and funded it himself, made that movie for very little money. I think it was like 20 or 30 grand, and then sold it for who knows, like made ridiculous amount of money. He only did the one movie. He produced, I think, the second one. He may have wrote it or something, but he didn't direct it. And he basically just did, it's like he won the lottery. He made one movie that hit big and just retired. He lives on an island somewhere and just doesn't make movies anymore. And I've heard interviews with him where he's talked about it, and he just said, yeah, I did what I wanted to do. I don't want to do anything else. I'm rich now. I'm good. And that's it. He just checked out. He lives in like New Zealand. He lives in New Zealand now, I think. Yeah, just lives a wealthy lifestyle with not having to do anything. I kind of envy the guy, although I would want to keep making movies because I do love them so. But the movie industry is not just you get to wake up every day and make magic. It's a lot of hassle and a lot of work.
Yeah,
especially when big studios get involved and there are executives and producers and all these other folks that want to put their own stamp on it. So
I think I have to pick three for different reasons. I've been thinking about your question.
Let's hear it.
And Night of the Living Dead, the original.
Oh, good choice. Although I think Dawn of the Dead superior, but it's a good choice.
I used to think that too, but I actually don't think that's the case.
The original Dawn of the Dead, you don't think it's better than Night of the Living Dead?
No, I think it. I mean, it is in some ways. It says maybe more about, it has that whole message about commercialism and all that kind of stuff, which is cool. But to me, for me, what really makes a horror movie, at least in that vein, the ones when I think of ones like that, it's just the atmosphere and like the black and white and just the way the zombies move and like that opening scene with like the car chase with the zombie, like it's just so memorable.
They're coming to get you, Bob.
No individual scenes from Dawn of the Dead really stick out to me like that.
Oh, dude, so many.
I love that movie, by the way. It could have made a top 5.
Opening scene when the FBI are raiding all those low income houses where they're hiding the zombies and they're all biting in the necks and dude, it's so good.
Another one
Dawn of the Dead is. I know you've teased me before for using the word masterpiece too often, but it's fantastic. And Night of the Living Dead is too.
It is, but so is Night of the Living Dead. Yeah,
I had John Russo on my show who co-wrote the script.
Yeah, that was a great one. I really enjoyed that interview. It's again one of my favorite.
Funny, I came across
another one is Dream Warrior. That Freddy's awesome. Dream Warrior is the best Freddy movie, other than maybe the first one, but I like Dream Warriors better.
I'm a big fan. As you like old horror movies, I'd suggest Brian De Palma's old stuff, like Dress to Kill, Body Double, Obsession. I'm forgetting a big one. Blowout's not really a horror movie, but it kind of falls into that. He's very inspired by the old Italian giallo movies with some killer with a razor in the dark and with leather gloves killing people. And they're really good. They're all insanely good. Sisters, but one of my all-time favorite movies is Phantom of the Paradise, which is I have a huge poster of it on the wall behind my computer. and it's kind of a mixture of it's a rock, it's a musical. There's songs in it, but it makes sense within the story. It's not like people just break into song. But it takes place in there's some big music producer played by Paul Williams, who is the guy that wrote it. We've only just begun for the Carpenters and also the Rainbow Connection for the Muppets. But he plays this guy that owns this big, so he's a swanky music producer, and he has this big place. It's kind of a mixture of Faust and Phantom of the Opera. So it's a guy that wrote a musical cantata about Faust, who gets his work stolen from him when he tries to find out what happened or get some measure of revenge. He gets scarred and beaten and imprisoned, and then he escapes, steals a costume because it's a big place where they make music videos and do everything, and takes place in the 70s. So he gets a garish costume and then lives secretly in the place and sabotages all the music stuff that he's doing while he's trying to make his stolen show. And it's a beautiful movie. The music's excellent, and the acting's superb. And it's just a really fun movie. So, and it takes place. It's old. You'd like it. It's 70s.
Yes,
70s mostly.
Yeah, I'd be all about that. Probably
Body
the other
Double's
pick of
a great
mine
one.
probably be something Vincent Price, because I love Vincent Price, and probably House of
Yes,
Wax.
you do have a lot. Your Tingler love is well known.
Man, Tingler's great.
Have you ever seen The Last Man on Earth? That's an excellent one.
No,
It was
have not.
it's the most faithful adaptation of I Am Legend ever made.
Yeah, I've heard about it. Yeah, I've been meaning to check that
Omega
one out. I was
Man
probably going
and
to get
the
on the
Will Smith I
podcast.
Am Legend were both adaptations as well. But Vincent Price's The Last Man on Earth is the most accurate version.
So, what are your three favorite horror movies?
3.
Yeah,
What if I call Phantom of the Paradise a true horror movie? Definitely Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's a lot of choice. I do really like Event Horizon.
it's great.
The thing would be in there.
It's this thing counts, and I have to remove one of the others from my top three.
Yeah, of course the thing counts. I
I
mean,
sometimes think of it as a sci-fi, but you're
John
right.
Carpenter's John Carpenter's movies could almost be all three of my choices.
Yeah.
I think Prince of Darkness is fantastic. I love In the Mouth of Madness.
Yeah,
They
Thing might be my
Live.
favorite. In fact, I
mean,
love the Thing.
Halloween is great, but I've seen it so many times. It's lost a little of its luster, and it's been redone with so many sequels and whatever. But The Thing stands alone as a fantastic film.
Sure does. I can't believe I didn't think of that.
Fantastic horror movie too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
great. One of the great. All right, here's a question for you. If you could have three things on a deserted island, what would those three things be?
I love that when I interview people, I've noticed this when we do our interviews on the X-Rated podcast, that you have like out of left field questions like that. I rarely do that sort of thing because it's like you just put people such on the spot, and you're like, what I put 3? Okay, so I could bring anything, any item.
Yeah, 3
Do
items.
I have power? Can I listen to things or watch movies?
If you think you can engineer coconut power. They did it on Gilligan's Island.
I don't know how scientifically accurate that was.
Well, this isn't a scientifically accurate island.
Well, okay, if I didn't have the ability to, I mean, I'm assuming food. If I didn't have electricity and just had to entertain myself, I guess 3 books probably is what I bring, so at least to give me something to do.
3 books. It's not just one book and then like a couple other things. You would just want 3 books.
I guess something, yeah, like a video
I
game.
mean,
Well, like
you're
I
gonna
said,
get sick of those 3 books just like you would get sick
well,
of
what
one
if I
book.
don't have power? What are the other things going to do for me?
Well, that's why I asked. That's all right. 3 books for Andre. You don't
I
want
mean,
no.
that's-
You don't want your cardio machine. You don't want your guitar there. You
No,
don't want
actually,
your
yeah, I would
gremlin
take. Okay,
statues.
no, you're a good point. I would take the guitar because then I can make music, and I enjoy music, but I wouldn't really be able to listen to it too much. So the guitar,
You
I'd
wouldn't want a
probably,
drawing tool of some sort, something you could scratch pictures onto rocks with, a chisel, perhaps.
well, satellite phone to get off the island would be useful. But yeah, I'd probably take a guitar, a book, I guess a drawing pad, but I feel like I'd use it up eventually.
What about chalkboard?
Yeah, then I wouldn't get to
Then you'd
keep
have
the
to
things I
erase your
made.
creations, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. It's
Well,
like
you could,
something.
like a real thick. You could get like a thick scroll of paper.
Sure, I'll take that. That sounds good. I like those three items. Those sum up kind of what I love. I don't think the Gremlin statue would be that useful. As much as I'd like to look at it, I could bring my piece of Nick Bradshaw original art on the wall, or
What do you have original there by Bradshaw?
From his Army of Darkness comic book.
Oh, very cool.
One of his very early ones. I also have a drawing of Superman by George Perez, which might be worth something now that he's passed on.
Oh,
Friend of mine gave it for me for a gift. I also have a Infinity Gauntlet #1 signed by Perez and Jim Starlin. Starlin's one of my all-time favorite comic writers.
All right, well, that was the next question. Well, this is a two-part question. Again, I like the rule of threes here. Who are your 3 favorite comic writers and 3 favorite comic artists?
Grant Morrison's #1 for writers. Oh man, it's a tough call to pick 3. Grant Morrison for sure. Garth Ennis for sure. I mean, I love Warren Ellis. I love I mean, I guess I'd have to say Alan Moore. I mean, you have to, wouldn't you? Alan Moore, but Neil Gaiman's so good too. There's so many to choose. Okay, so Garth Ennis, Grant Morrison, Alan Moore.
Okay, artists. David Cutler, and David Cutler.
I do love David Cutler, but the ones that inspired me a lot growing up were Mark Bagley. I love his Spider-Man comics. He still does some amazing work. I've always really liked his style.
So kinetic. It just everything looks really like it's moving.
I always like. I guess a lot of the ones that I really like. I like Steve Dillon just because the style was so different. I know he's gone now, but he was such an interesting. I like Frank Whiteley
from Welcome Back, Frank.
Yep.
He died.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I know you don't, but I like Frank Whiteley quite a bit. I think his like his style. I think it's very.
I like his faces.
Yeah,
it is unique. It's stylized, so you just have to be into that style. And if you do,
a lot of the guys that did Spider-Man when I was growing up, like when they had 4 Spider-Man titles all running at once. There's
Lebowski.
Like it was Mark Bagley. I think it was Tom Lyle. It was Buscema, not Sal. I think it was the son, whose name escapes me. John Buscema.
No, that'd be his father. No, they're brothers. Sal and John are brothers.
Okay, whatever one was drawing the Hulk and Spider-Man back then when it was Web of Spider-Man.
That was Sal.
Yeah, Tom Lyle was doing just Spider-Man, and who was in the other book? There's Web of Spectacular, which was Buscema,
and Amazing.
And Amazing was Bagley.
Hmm.
But Web of was it's gonna come to me.
JR, was it?
No, it was a little later. Oh, John Romita, Jr. I do really like too. Yeah, it wasn't him. He did it later when they Spider-Man came.
He
back.
did the Straczynski run.
Yeah, I do really like John Romita Jr. I do really like Mark Bagley, so I guess I'd say those 2. I mean, I like Alex Ross quite a bit. His style's so different, but it's so beautiful to look at.
Which one do you draw the most like yourself?
Probably Bagley or Frank Whiteley. Probably somewhere between Bagley and Whiteley.
Do you do squishy faces?
Whiteley's kind of ethereal. I don't know. It's like it might be more like Steve Dillon, but Steve Dillon and Paul, I'm not gonna pronounce his last name right. Gulusi. He did like the Star Wars Crimson Empire comics, and he did. There's a Batman meets Predator #2 that came out when I was younger. A lot of like big eyes. If you look up his stuff, you'd recognize his style. He was interesting and different too. But I'd say Frank Whiteley, Mark Bagley, and what was the other one I said?
Whiteley, Bagley, and you said Ennis. No, that was for writers. You said Dillon.
Yeah, I don't think I would probably. If I could pick any artist that I probably draw the closest to, it'd probably be Jason Burrows, who does. He did like Cross, the Alan Moore comic, or is it Alan Moore? Garth Ennis, the Garth Ennis zombie thing with the scarring that makes it cross.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Steve Dillon did pretty much all of the work on Preacher, the art.
Yeah.
So, yeah, which I love to. So yeah.
What are you doing to that guitar?
Oh, that's Sheba. She's just sniffing it. I was playing it earlier, so outside, so she might be picking something up from outside.
Sheba, how come you didn't name one of your cats "No Country for Old Men" or "No Kitty for Old Men"?
It's a good choice. It's a bit long. I could call one Anton Chigurh, I guess, which is the killer from that movie, but that seems like a long name.
Also, naming after killers. Come on.
My old cat that passed away, Klaatu, was named after an alien. He wasn't really a killer though. So
That's true. Who's your favorite monster?
like in movies,
Or whatever. Monster.
the
Monsters
Hulk,
are good in
the Hulk,
comics
I
too.
guess the Hulk would be my choice.
Yeah, he counts as a monster, definitely.
And just such an interesting mixture of like Hyde Jekyll myth with superheroes and funneling it through anger and all that stuff's cool. It's really really neat character, and I've been really waiting for I wait for like the right time to do things, which is a terrible way to live your life because it never happens. So like I have that Barry Windsor Smith comic monster that he made that's like was a Hulk story that was too dark for Marvel, and then he fleshed out into its own thing. That's kind of a takeoff of the Hulk myth. Came out a few years ago, and it's like one of his like big things. He's working on it for like decades. And I've been meaning to read it forever, and I never
Great
got
art,
around to.
Barry Windsor Smith.
Yeah, and he wrote it and drew it too. So
he'd be one of my probably top 3 artists. Really,
so?
Barry Windsor Smith.
He's a good
probably.
choice.
Bill Sienkiewicz probably my favorite.
I mean, I got like Jack Kirby. Come on, I'd have to say him. Come on, like you'd have to
for the legacy, but his art style wouldn't be.
I loved his art style. It was so beautiful. It was so.
It's great. It's great, but like I think people have sort of like perfected it a bit over time.
I love Steve Rude too. Steve Rude's art is really good. I really like Allred as well, and Immonen, Stuart Immonen.
I care. Oh yeah, Stuart Eminen's great, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to choose from.
Oh yeah, he's one of my favorites for sure.
And David Cutler, of course.
And of course, David Cutler. David Cutler should draw all the books.
I agree. He's fantastic.
Yeah, man. Hey, yeah, where's David Cutler right now? Drawing his books, actually.
Probably.
Drawing his books. That Iron Man annual. That's exciting. Yeah. Iron Man vs. Storm. Tell ya. Storm doesn't come out on top. I don't care if it's an Iron Man annual. I don't think we can have Dave back on the show.
Well, I'm pretty sure like almost every comic book crossover, it's going to be one. They realize they shouldn't be fighting a team up to stop a common foe.
So
very rare.
So it's gonna happen, Andre. There's a movie something in your future.
I can tell.
So. I can tell.
I think the internet just heard me talking about Sal Buscema because I just skimmed. On my left, there's a message came up, so I just downsized it, and then the Facebook feed showed me some artwork from a Spider-Man X-Men crossover by him.
And it's creepy how much it's listening to you all the time.
Well, there was a crossover they did with the X-Men that I liked when I was a kid. I only had maybe a handful of comics. So one of them was Spider-Man teaming up with the X-Men against Professor Power, I think the character's name was, who was like this guy whose kid was killed and he blamed the X-Men and Spider-Man got wrapped into it somehow. But I always really liked the art in that.
The Mondo was really good too. Yeah. So podcasting. Then let's get back to podcasting then.
Sure.
So you landed on graphic histories. Mm-hmm. The interviews are going well. You're getting lots of interesting guests, such as myself, David Cutler, John Russo. Is that your biggest guest so far? You think, as far as the one you're like, oh yeah, I get to talk to John Russo for an hour.
As far as like
in the business,
yeah, I like John. It's funny. I came across one of his movies the other day at the record store. I was picking up some Blu-rays at Taz, and in one of their discount bins, they had one of his old super low budget movies on one of those boutique labels, and I should have picked it up. I regret that I didn't. At least to just support him and check out some of his other stuff. Instead, I opted for Mississippi Burning, which I've never seen, but a friend of mine highly suggests. And I want to forget what the other two are. I'll kind of mean a second. But it's stuff I've been looking for a while. Oh, Razorback, which is an Australian horror movie about a giant warthog from like the 80s.
Interesting. I like Australian stuff.
Honestly, I've been very taken with Australian horror movies lately. I watch often the Joe Bob Briggs show.
Did you see the Babadook?
Yes, I'm. That's a fan. Jennifer Kent's a great director. She did an episode of the it's funny. Well, I guess this movie's or this show's about me. So, the Cabinet of Curiosity show on Netflix, the one Guillermo del Toro produces. So it's like an anthology show where he handpicks creators to do stories, and some of them are a couple of them are really bad, but most of them are quite good. One of the standouts for me was Graveyard Rats, which is directed by Vincenzo Natali, who's Canadian. He did the movie Cube, which is a great horror movie, and Splice and a few other movies like that too. But he,
Splice.
yeah, it's that movie perfectly sums up why we can't be trusted with science as humans. Because first we're going to make something, then we're going to raise it like a pet, and then we're going to have sex with it. That's exactly what's going to happen. But
I have a different relationship with our iPhones.
well, yeah, I meant like a living, like creating life, I suppose. But so
you think Dr. Frankenstein was just trying to, hit it and quit it with that monster? Is that it?
well, they did make a sequel where he made the bride.
He did.
So,
yeah,
well, I mean, if you read the original book, I did the stage.
And then they fought over her.
It wasn't really over her. It was more. Well,
they were like pulling at her like back and forth.
I did the stage play of the original of Frankenstein in last year, which I played the creature in. And that was a very literal adaptation of the book. So the often in that story, the doctor gets wrapped up in what he can achieve and doesn't really stop to think whether he should. To pacify the monster, he agrees to make her. He never really has designs on her as a lover for himself. Maybe in other versions they do, but it's just. But then he doesn't stop. In the play, he's visited by the ghost of his brother who was killed by the creature, who asks him these questions. It's like a dream, basically. He has a dream, and the creature his brother's in the dream brings up all these questions that he's never thought of, like will they breed? Can they breed? How many will they be in a litter? Will the litter follow what do people say? Will they be monsters and kill others like the creature killed him? And then he's sort of driven to destroy it before he if these answers are not what he wants, then of course he kills her, destroys her, but before she's fully done, which causes the creature to go insane with anger, and that's heads toward the end of the book in the play. But yeah, good story. Frankenstein.
What are your play ambitions now? Then you want to direct another one? You want to write one? You want to act in some more?
Well, writing one would be fun, and I'd like to do that someday. I was actually what movie did I watch recently that I thought would make for a good play? The Shining. The Shining would make for a good play. You'd have to condense
Shining,
it.
I guess.
But
Shining's good, but it can be boring, and it could be potentially boring as a play.
Well,
but you say, if you condensed it, it could be interesting.
I've seen a play adaptation of Misery, and I read the script and loved it. So
yeah, that'd be creepy.
Yeah, they did it in Halifax, and I wanted to do it years and years ago, like 10 years ago. But the rights were bought up for professional use, and then they must be open for amateur. Well, I guess Neptune's a professional studio, so maybe amateurs can't do it either. But yeah, Frankenstein was a big dream of mine. I was really happy to do that play. My next one, I was trying to find some. I kind of wanted to make like a thing where I just do like horror themed plays around Halloween every year.
Well, what would make a good play, Andre?
What's that?
The Thing.
That would actually, yes, but that would be incredibly hard to pull off.
You don't need the monster. You don't actually ever need to see the monster.
That's true. I did see a stage play of The Exorcist, which was excellent too. So, there's stuff out there.
Now, talk about if you can do The Exorcist, you can do The Thing.
No, I mean, rewatch The Thing. Some of those creatures are insane.
Yeah, but like spinning head and like walking up the stairs backwards and like all the other horrible stuff.
It was interesting. I watched it in Scotland.
Your mother sucks dick in hell. Did they say that?
Sucks cocks in hell.
Oh, sorry.
I saw a T-shirt one time that said, and it made me laugh so hard. It was just a graphic that I think was on a shirt, and it said "the Dyslexorcist," and then at the bottom it says, "Your mother cooks socks in hell."
I would have bought that shirt.
Oh man, it's so good.
Oh my god, that is amazing. Oh my god, I want that shirt.
But while trying to find I read a bunch of horror themed plays, trying to find something that I liked, and I couldn't find anything that I really, really liked. There's one by Max Landis.
Be one.
Pardon?
He did like a zombie one, right?
His father, John Landis, did American Werewolf in London and and Animal House and all those things. But his son did the movie Chronicle. Do you remember the one about like the kids that find a spaceship with powers? He did some other cool stuff. He directed other movies and wrote some comics and stuff, but he he wrote a play called Polybius or something, which is about like a haunted arcade machine, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, Polybius. It's the myth of the Polybius machine. There's a whole thing there.
Oh, that's actually a real myth.
Yeah, like it's apparently people remember it from like the Portland and Seattle area.
Yeah, and it was about a guy who gets one of these machines. And
that's a real myth that it actually existed.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting. I thought it was just it was all fiction for the play.
No. So people thought it was like, FBI doing tests on people.
Yeah, the military. They mentioned that in the play too. But it's like this guy and his ex-wife, and then his a girl that he's trying to impress, trapped in a garage because him and the wife had talked about finding this machine someday, and he did. So he invited her, and then they lost the kid, and that's what broke them up. And it's sort of about but then the machine does something to them, and they all start going a little crazy. It's interesting, but it was the best one I read out of all the stuff I read. There's another one that was interesting about a group of people that were trapped on a space station. Earth generally checks in every 3 months, but then they stop checking in, and like 6 or 9 months have gone by. And people were starting to worry that maybe there isn't an Earth left, and they're trapped orbiting Pluto somewhere. But that one, like most plays, have really cool ideas, and then you get to the end, and they have terrible endings. And sometimes the endings are so
most
bad.
movies too. Like
sometimes
the third act is almost the worst.
Sometimes the endings are so bad it just ruins everything. There's one I love the idea of this play. It was called Safe, and it was about people in a bank, and robbers bust in, and then the play starts with them all locked in the safe. So the robbers rob the bank, put all the people in the bank in the safe, and close the door. And all the people. So the whole play was just these people trapped in the safe. And it was like on a Friday, so the safe wouldn't open until Sunday or Monday, and they're afraid they're going to run out of air and blah, blah, blah. So, cool idea, cool concept, could be interesting. 5 pages in, they're already arguing about who the leader is going to be. Like it's on an island somewhere. And I was like, well, this is.
You're in a safe for 2 days. You don't need a leader.
Yeah, exactly. And then later on, there's like a fat woman that was hiding candy bars in the safe. And then like that comes out, and then they get in a fight over that. And then one guy kills another guy. And during the fight, and the whole thing at the end of the play, the whole reveal is that
it wasn't locked.
The door was never locked. They could have got it at any time.
Too predictable.
I know. That's what it's like. So, but anyway, so I read other plays, but I'm a big fan of the writer Kurt Vonnegut, and he wrote a play called Happy Birthday, Wanda June that I think I'm going to do. I have to submit it to the theater group. I have a co-director that's agreed to do it. There's someone on stage who has to play a Nazi, and my co-director's interested in that role. So thankfully, because I thought that'd be hard to fill.
The co-director wants to play the Nazi.
Well, he's good at the German accent, and the basic idea is there's so Vonnegut, if you're not familiar with his work, wrote Slaughterhouse-Five and Breakfast of Champions and a lot of other very famous books. Very unique writing style, very comical, but also human. And I love his stuff. So this play is about, there's like a manly man. It was written in the 70s. And it's like a manly man hero guy who is like an American hero who disappeared during the war. Him and the guy that dropped the bomb on Nagasaki were together fighting somewhere, and they both disappeared. So they've been assumed dead. It's been like 8 or 9 years. So his wife and his son, who's now a young boy, live in their apartment, and she starts dating again and gets engaged to someone else. Like a hippie doctor who's like on to peace and love and free thinking and all that stuff. But then the original Harold Ryan, the original husband, returns.
I think thinking should cost at least $14.95, and that's just a start.
What's this? Sorry?
There'd be no free thinking. It should be $14.95 minimum.
That's fair.
Right.
So the original guy returns, and then it's all about like the dying of the Hemingway style manly men shoot all the animals and be in violence and to prove that you're the guy, versus the kinder, gentler man of the 70s that didn't subscribe to all that. Sadly, it's still incredibly relevant to this day because a lot of that sort of puff chest bravado continues. But it's a very interesting play. It's called that because in the play, the boy is upset that his mom's going on a date on what would be his father's birthday, because they believe his father died. So one of her suitors decides to go get a birthday cake because he worships this guy like he's a hero of the American public. So he gets a cake, and he gets a cheaper one because no one picked it up. And on the cake it says "Happy Birthday 1 to June." But then people that are referenced to have died in the play come on stage and talk to the audience from heaven. They describe what being in heaven's like. The person who the cake was designed for comes on and talks about what happened. She was hit by a drunk driver in an ice cream truck that day, which is why no one picked up her cake. And there's a Nazi character that's described being killed by Harold Ryan that comes out and talks about what being in heaven's like now. And then there's an ex-wife of Harold Ryan's, who drank herself to death, that comes out and talks to. So they're all kind of connected. It's a very surreal, interesting play. It's different. It's dark. It's very dark. But I'm always pushing for us to do something different. I mean, the theater group I'm in does a lot of goofy comedies, a lot, and people love them. They do well.
That's Nova Scotia theater. I mean, Nova Scotia.
I know, but I don't want that. I want people that want real theater to get it, and not have to go to Neptune to get it. Yeah. So, I want to do my thing here, and if people don't like it, well, don't buy a ticket. But
I always joke about Halifax Feast and the Grafton Street Dinner Theater.
Oh, dinner theaters, yeah. I just did a dinner theater. That's all those are. There'll never be anything beyond that.
95% of them are just about Cape Breton, like Cape Breton themed.
They do that a lot, actually, around here.
Sure. They really do.
They do fetishize Cape Breton quite a bit.
Yeah. So here's a question: when we meet back here in the 200th episode,
okay, that's the plan.
Oh, sure, why not?
That's good.
Who are the 5 guests that you're going to be talking about that you've had in the last 100 episodes?
Oh, so this is just who am I gonna my dream guest?
Wish list. Yep, but somewhat attainable. Don't say dead people or
Grant Morrison would be a dream come true. As far as influence on me as comic writer goes, he'd be way up there. Neil Gaiman would be a dream come true. He seems like a really cool, accessible dude, so that could happen. Probably not.
Like a good talker, he'd be interesting, very interesting.
I think he's one of the most creative and free thinking kind of people. He's just very, I don't know. Every time I listen to him, he just seems like the kind of guy I'd like to hang out with.
Yeah.
Did you say 5?
Yeah.
Mark Bagley, that'd be a dream come true. One of my guests on the show, Brian Silverbacks, actually lives near him, and has talked to him before. So I'd love that to happen. I'd actually obtainable. I think Larry Hama would be really cool to have in the show.
That would be awesome.
I'd love to have him in the show.
He's awesome.
Yeah,
he would be so fun.
He would be, and Jeff Ursherwood, who had in the show, came up with him, or came up under him. So it would be really cool if that could happen. Yeah, and actually, James Gunn would be a dream come true too. I'm a huge fan of.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, Kevin Feige, the Russos. Anybody? Actually, Jim Starlin would be excellent. So let's finish him. He's one of my all-time favorites. Actually, I have his art book. That a friend gave me that says in it, to Andre, now you know all my secrets, Jim Starlin, which is nice.
That's you're in on getting him on the show. Just I need to get all the rest of the secrets, Jim.
Well, the same friend had given me a copy of Infinity Gauntlet #1 signed by Starlin and Perez. So,
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's a prized possession.
You bet. I don't have any signatures on my Infinity Gauntlet #1. Not any.
But you got to
I'll have to get you to sign it.
Someday.
To Devin from Thanos, it'll say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanos well, those would be good guests. Oh man, I want you to get Larry Hama on your show so bad. That would be a great conversation.
I believe I reached out to him, but he never answered. So maybe someday.
You have to act as a rogue acquisitions agent and get him on your show for you. I go rogue sometimes.
Well, I sent him the message. It doesn't look like he's seen it.
Oh,
so maybe someday.
That's like me and Larry Houston. The Larrys are avoiding us.
That's right. They're right. Those Larrys. Someday
what's with us and Larrys? I don't know.
Mike Allred would be fun too. I'd love to talk to him.
Oh, that'd be fun. Get him and his wife both, Laura, as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Mark Russell was a big get for me. I was very, very happy to get, very amazed that he was so easy to get in touch with and get a hold of. And I'm a huge fan of his writing, so it was really cool to chat with him.
Here's the last one, I think.
All right.
We're running on in time here.
All right.
Last question. This is also a plug. X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. How much, not even if it has, how much has it changed your life for the better, Andre?
Well, getting to know you better was always good. I'm happy about that.
I wasn't fishing.
No,
I'm
I know,
just talking
but
about
it's true.
how great the show is.
It's true. You're great. You're a great guy, and I only really knew you from chatting with you at a con at the Dartmouth Comics Arts Festival like a million years ago. So
Years ago, the first one, I think.
I think it was. So we were way in the back in the shitty spot, like in the doors there.
Right by the doors. Where like there's doors
The
on
wind
this
would
side of us,
open.
and
The
there's
wind
doors
would
on
every
that
time
side
the
of us.
door opened, the wind would blow everybody's stuff over. Like, so that's great. But also, yeah, getting to know that show because it's always been on the periphery. Like I've caught scattered episodes as a kid, but I never really seen it all, and I definitely missed probably 90% of it. So being able to watch it again from the lens of being a cynical adult and see how faithful it was to the comics. I mean, it is a kid's cartoon, so it does have to jump through certain hoops to be that. But seeing how faithful it is and
Wasted.
seeing the impact it's had.
Totaled.
Yeah, well, just seeing the fan base and the impact it's had on people.
Yeah.
You know, and that the fact that it's coming back, like it's just such a beloved community of X fans out there. You know, so it's been great. I'm really glad you you know, I know I'm not the easiest person to try to get to always be there right on time, and I try, but I'm really happy you got me to do it because I actually been really enjoying it.
And don't worry, David Cutler and I mock you behind your back about your fulfilling life filled with things to do and people to talk to. And
Well, go
it's
ahead.
like, what else? What else do you want to add to your schedule you don't have time to do?
Yeah, I'm not adding a lot of stuff. I mean, between wrestling and podcasting and general work, and just trying to find time to do things I like to do. It's a bit of a slog. So
Not an idler, Andre.
well, and then now I got Davan 2 nights in a row because we got our interview tomorrow with Lawrence Payne too. So
Oh, geez, this is going to be the best week of your life, buddy. Of course, I might have like an eye patch on by tomorrow night. I don't know.
well,
We'll see.
I think
Hopefully, I'm well medicated in the eye area.
I think there's enough alcohol in your system to kill anything that would mess you up.
There definitely isn't. I haven't been on I've been off the booze.
What? That's horrible. Get back on it.
I told you that, and you tried to talk me out of it.
Yeah, you're much more interesting when you're drunk.
I'm
kidding. I'm
I was
kidding.
drunk, so you don't even know. You can't tell when I'm drunk or when I'm
I
not. The
don't
funny thing
think
is,
you're
nobody can.
Oh, I can. I was there when it happened during your birthday.
Oh wait, yeah, you're right. You're right. You can. I forgot about that. That was a disaster.
Ah, it was fun.
Yeah. Well, this was getting to know Andrew Myette on the Graphic Histories podcast.
Fucker. My 100th episode, and you're gonna pull this bullshit.
Yeah.
No, I'm happy. Thanks, man. For I think you suggested the idea of doing this, and it sort of stuck in my head that it'd be a fun one. So,
Well, I hope I asked some good questions. I was trying to channel what would Andre ask,
that's right. I like it.
and throw in a couple quirky ones as I do.
As you do.
Which I got to think of some quirky ones for the interview tomorrow night.
That's right. I think that'll be a fun one too. But yeah, it's nice
Oh
that
man, he
there's
seems like a fun guy. That
For
was a
sure.
pretty good one.
Well, thanks for being on the show, Devin. I really appreciate it. You know what? To make it easy on myself for the editing, I'm just gonna, since you already did the intro, I'll do the outro. I'll just do it now.
All right.
This was my discussion about my life with Davan Skelhorn. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Graphic Histories podcast. Big thanks to Ukla Mock for our theme song Superpowers, which I doubt got said in the intro. And make sure to like and subscribe and all that stuff. And check out the X-Rated X-Men Anime Review Show, our sister podcast that I do with Davan Skelhorn, the man you just heard interview me. Thank you very much to Davan for doing that. It was a lot of fun. And thank you for listening, gentle listener. It's been 100 episodes, and it's been a wild ride. This started as kind of a COVID project, and it ballooned into a side thing that I deeply enjoy doing, and got to talk to some amazing people, and happy to bring it to you guys every other week, and can't thank you enough for tuning in. So until next time, my name is André Myette, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. The Graphic Histories Podcast is a proud partner of the United Federation of Podcasts.